Do you believe people can reincarnate? Have you ever met someone who remembers their past life, not in dreams, not in fragments, but in full, crystal clear detail? Well, let me tell you about a man from the mountains of Gansu, China. A man who remembers being executed in 1958, who remembers wandering as a soul for 8 years, and who started talking about all of this when he was barely 1 year old. This is the story of Old Zhang, a man who lived 2 lives, died once, and remembered everything. He was born in 1965. And when he turned 1, something happened that no one in the village could explain. This baby suddenly opened his mouth, and started talking like a 60-year-old man. Not baby talk, not mama or dada. He talked about taxes, he talked about land disputes. He talked about which township owed grain to the county government. He talked about events from the 1940s and 50s like he had just lived through them. Villagers were stunned. They'd pick him up, and this tiny kid, who couldn't even walk, would calmly explain which mountain trail was dangerous in winter, which family had a feud, and which village chief was corrupt 30 years ago. The elders didn't believe him at first. They tried to stump him with obscure questions, old boundaries, forgotten names, tiny details from decades earlier. He answered everything, perfectly, and when they went back to verify his answers, every single detail checked out. That's when people started whispering, "This kid. He's not normal." One day, the toddler dropped a bomb. He said, "I used to be Zhang Mingyi." The entire village froze, because Zhang Mingyi wasn't just anyone. He had been one of the 3 wealthiest landlords in Old Wudu County, a man who managed 7 remote townships, owned livestock, farmland, and even traveled in a sedan chair like an old school boss. And this baby? He described the rifle officials gifted him. He described the exact layout of his terraced hillside home. He described the names of his workers, the shape of the mountain roads, the way his sedan chair carriers walked. These weren't vague impressions. These were memories, sharp, specific, lived. Eventually, the story reached the ears of Zhang Mingyi's real family, the family from his past life. At first, they thought it was ridiculous. But the second son, he couldn't resist. He traveled 50 li to see this reincarnated baby. He didn't go easy. He asked the kid about secret family drama, things that never left the house. Who hated who? Why certain relatives never spoke? Where a specific piece of land came from? Old grudges, hidden relationships. The kid answered everything, even things the son himself didn't know. When he checked with other relatives, every answer was true. That's when the second son broke down and said, "Dad, you came back." But because it was the Cultural Revolution, and landlord was basically a death sentence, they kept everything secret. 2 families, 1 soul, meeting in the shadows. But here's the part that really messes with your head. According to Old Zhang, when he was shot in 1958, everything did not just go black. He remembers the moment the bullet hit him. The sound of the crowd fading. The ground rushing up. And then, silence. He thought that was it. Game over. Roll credits. But it wasn't. He says his consciousness was still there. He could still see. He could still think. He just didn't have a body anymore. He found himself drifting in the mountains around Wudu, the same mountains he used to ride through in a sedan chair. Except this time, no horses, no people, no weight. Just him and the wind. He watched the seasons change. Snow on the peaks. Spring floods in the valleys. Fields turning green, then yellow, then empty again. He watched villages change too. Old houses collapsing. New ones being built. Paths he used to walk slowly disappearing under weeds. He tried to go home. He says he floated back toward the place where his old house used to be. But there was nothing he could do. No one could see him. No one could hear him. He was there, but also completely gone. And this went on, according to him, for 8 years. 8 years of being stuck between lives. Not in heaven, not in hell. Just hanging over the mountains, watching the world move on without him. Then one day, something changed. He says he felt a pull, like a current in a river, dragging him toward a small village in the same region. There, in a simple farmer's home, a woman was about to give birth. He didn't choose the family. He didn't negotiate some cosmic contract. He just felt himself being pulled in, like a door had opened for a split second, and he either went through it, or stayed wandering forever. The next thing he remembers? crying, light, hands holding him. And then, slowly, the memories of his past life started bleeding into this new one. That baby was Old Zhang. As he grew older, the memories didn't fade, they sharpened. He remembered the faces of his workers, the sound of the mountains, the weight of responsibility. And he remembered the betrayal that led to his execution. Years later, when he was a child in this life, he developed a high fever. His mother carried him to the township clinic. But as they approached the government building, he suddenly went berserk, screaming, kicking, refusing to go any farther. His mother had no idea what was happening. But Old Zhang later explained, across the street was the exact spot where he had been executed in his past life. He wasn't hallucinating, he was reliving it. Fast forward to 1978. Old Zhang enters middle school. His homeroom teacher is an elderly man named Zhang Yufu. On the first day, Zhang looks at him, really looks at him, and sends all the other students out. Then he asks, voice shaking, "Do you still remember me? I'm Zhang Yufu. I used to collect taxes for you." Old Zhang froze. Because suddenly, everything came back, the mountains, the villages, the long days traveling together. This old teacher was his right-hand man from his previous life. Two people who worked together decades ago, now standing in a classroom, one reborn as a child, one aged into an old man. Both crying. But reincarnation doesn't erase emotion. As a kid, Old Zhang often snapped at his past life sons and granddaughters, not because he hated them, but because he still carried the bitterness of being executed unjustly. He didn't know how to handle the anger of a life he no longer lived. Eventually, he grew up, apologized, and rebuilt those relationships. Today, the two families still spend holidays together. 2 generations, 2 lifetimes, 1 soul. Today, Old Zhang still lives in Longnan, a calm, polite man with white-rimmed glasses. If you passed him on the street, you'd never guess he remembers a life before this one, a life of wealth, betrayal, death, and reunion. But in Wudu, his story is still told. Not as superstition, not as folklore, but as a reminder that maybe, just maybe, the people we lose aren't gone forever. Maybe they find their way back to us. In another time, another body, another life.